This strike was sharp and brutal. My face was thrown to the side, my ears ringing. My left cheek burned. The entire banquet hall instantly fell silent. Everyone saw it. At the Heritage Holding anniversary dinner, in the presence of over 300 business elites, a young woman, seemingly out of nowhere, slapped me, the wife of the company president. I couldn't stand steadily, I staggered. And only by grabbing the edge of the table did I miraculously avoid falling. My hand knocked over a tall glass, and red wine spilled onto the white tablecloth, spreading like blood. The gaze of the entire hall was fixed on me. Someone gasped. Someone started whispering, and someone simply watched the spectacle with a glass in hand. I slowly raised my head and looked at the arrogant woman standing before me. She was about 20. She wore a limited edition evening gown from the latest collection, and around her neck was a diamond necklace worth at least 300 million rubles. With exquisite makeup, her gaze was full of triumph. She stood before me, chin slightly raised, like a peacock victorious in a duel. Behind her stood my husband, to whom I had been married for 5 years. Konstantin Volkov, president of Heritage Holding, a business genius, the dream of countless women, rich and an enviable groom. He did not come to support me. He didn't even look in my direction. His gaze was fixed on this woman, and in it was a tenderness I had never seen. A tenderness he had never shown to me, his lawful wife. I slapped her for myself. The young woman shook her hand. Her voice was clear, as if she had done something self-evident. You've occupied Konstantin's wife's place for 5 years. It's time for her to give it up. I pressed my hand to my burning cheek, staring at her intently. Who are you? My name is Alina. She took Konstantin's arm, almost pressing her whole body against him. Kostya loves me. If you value the remains of your dignity, sign the divorce papers amicably. Don't let it turn into a scandal. I looked at Konstantin. Finally, he looked at my face. But in his eyes there was no guilt, no sympathy, only irritation. Svetlana, don't make a scene. Don't make a scene. His woman publicly slapped me, and he tells me not to make a scene. I clenched my fists so hard that my nails dug into my palms. Konstantin, are you just going to stand there and watch? He frowned. His tone was icy. Alina is pregnant. She has an unstable emotional state. Give in to her. Pregnant. Give in to her. I heard something crack in my head. For these 5 years, I gave myself completely to Heritage Holding. When Konstantin's father died, the company's shares plummeted. It was I, using my family's connections, who attracted 3 billion rubles in rescue investments. When Konstantin was surrounded by enemies in business, it was I who accompanied him to business meetings until 3 a.m., drinking until I had stomach bleeding and was hospitalized. Half of what Heritage has achieved today was my merit. In my hands was 51% of the company's shares, which Konstantin's father personally transferred to me before his death. That old man, holding my hand, said, Svetlana, Kostya is an ambitious young man, but sometimes he does foolish things. I entrust the fate of Heritage to you. That way I'll be more at peace. I cried and nodded then, swearing that I would protect Heritage. And now his son, my husband, allows his mistress to hit me in the face, and even asks me to give in to her. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from trembling. Konstantin, I ask one last time, do you choose her or me? Alina immediately clung to his sleeve. Her eyes reddened. Kostya, look how she threatens me. She's already threatening you. Konstantin put his arm around Alina's shoulders and looked at me as if I were a stranger throwing a senseless tantrum. Svetlana, if you so much as touch Alina, we're getting a divorce. He said it in such a calm tone, as if discussing today's menu. Whispers started around. My God. Mr. Volkov admitted to infidelity, right in front of everyone. And who is this Alina? She looks beautiful, of course. But what does it matter? She's still a mistress. How sorry I feel for his wife. Why feel sorry for her? Didn't you hear what Volkov said? Divorce. It seems Mrs. Volkova's place will soon be vacant. I heard these words, and my heart clenched with pain, as if it were squeezed in a fist. But I didn't cry. I thought that 5 years of marriage deserved at least a drop of respect. But, as it turned out, in his eyes I was not worth even a hair of his mistress. Divorce. Fine. Then I'll show you what a real divorce is. I slowly straightened up, tucked the fallen strands of hair behind my ear, and looked at Alina's triumphant face. You said you were pregnant? I asked her. She puffed out her stomach, although it wasn't visible yet. Yes. By Kostya. So you'd better be sensible and get out of the Volkov's house quickly. Clear. I nodded. A child by Kostya. Are you sure? Alina's face changed. What do you mean? Nothing. I smiled. It just seems to me that your strike was too weak. Barely had I finished speaking when my hand flew up, and I slapped Alina with all my might. Clang. This sound was 10 times louder than the previous one. Alina shrieked and fell to the side. Konstantin anxiously caught her. Svetlana, have you lost your mind? He roared. I ignored him, and struck again with full force. Slam, that's for your shamelessness. Slam, that's for intruding into someone else's family. Slam, that's for using someone else's power to humiliate others. Each of my words was accompanied by a slap. Alina's hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared, tears mixed with foundation, turning her into a pathetic sight. She tried to dodge, but I grabbed her hair, not letting her escape. Svetlana, stop. Konstantin rushed to stop me. I pushed him away with my foot and continued to hit. Slam, 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 slam. I delivered the last 5 blows in a row. Alina's face was swollen like a pig's. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. 10 slaps. She said she struck for herself. Well, I showed her what it means to repay a debt tenfold. There was a dead silence in the hall. No one dared to speak. No one dared to approach. Konstantin supported Alina, who could barely stand. His face was crimson with rage. He looked at me as if he wanted to eat me alive. Svetlana, you're finished, he hissed through clenched teeth. Tomorrow an attorney will contact you regarding the divorce. You won't get a single penny. I shook my numb hand and took out my phone from my purse. Divorce? I looked at Konstantin. Do you think that after the divorce, heritage will remain yours? He froze. In front of him, I dialed a number and put it on speaker. After 2 rings, a calm male voice answered on the other end. Svetlana Andreevna. Yuri Pavlovich, I'm selling all 51% of Heritage Holding shares that belong to me at market price. Process the deal immediately. Konstantin's face instantly changed. Svetlana, have you gone mad? He let go of Alina and rushed towards me. I took a step back with a cold smirk. When you asked me to give in to her, for some reason you didn't think I might go mad. On the other end of the line, Yuri Pavlovich, obviously stunned, quickly recovered. Svetlana Andreevna, 51% of the shares. At the current market value, that's about 370 billion rubles. Are you sure? I am. Find a buyer immediately. The price doesn't matter. The deal must be completed today. Svetlana, you can't do this. Konstantin's voice broke. This is a Volkov family matter. This is what chant. What father left you. What father left me is mine. If I want to, I'll sell it. What does it have to do with you? Alina, at that moment, stopped crying. Covering her face with her hand, she looked at me with wide eyes, obviously still not understanding what was happening. 370 billion, 51% of Heritage shares. And if these shares fall into the wrong hands, Konstantin, as president, will become just a figurehead. He holds only 30% of the shares, which doesn't give him the right to a decisive vote. He panicked. He really panicked. Svetlana, let's talk calmly. His tone softened. I was wrong. I apologize to you, Alina. She's young, foolish. Don't take her seriously. Foolish, foolish? She's foolish, and you're foolish too. When you asked me to give in to her, why didn't you say that you yourself were foolish? Konstantin's face turned pale, then red. In front of 300 guests, he had obviously never experienced such humiliation. But he dared not flare up, because my finger was still on the phone button. Should I say another word? The agreed-upon heritage will change hands. Svetlana, let's go home and talk. He approached me, trying to take my hand. Let's not make a spectacle of ourselves in public. A spectacle. I pulled my hand away. When she hit me in the face, for some reason, he didn't think it was a spectacle. At that moment, the sound of rustling papers came from the phone. Svetlana Andreevna, a buyer has been found, Yuri Pavlovich said. He is ready to purchase the shares with a 10% premium. 407 billion rubles will be transferred to your account immediately. Do you confirm the deal? I looked at Konstantin. The last trace of color drained from his face. 407 billion. I looked at Konstantin's deathly pale face. My finger hovered over the phone screen. I deliberately paused for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, the banquet hall was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. 300 pairs of eyes watched me, my phone. Someone held their breath, someone gripped their glass tighter, and someone secretly turned on their phone camera. Konstantin's Adam's apple twitched, drops of sweat ran down his temples. Svetlana. His voice was very quiet. In it was a submission I had never heard before. Calm down. Let's discuss everything at home. Selling shares in front of everyone won't benefit anyone. Who won't it benefit? I raised the phone slightly. Me, a woman about to be abandoned by her husband. I no longer care. Alina, covering her face, finally realized what was happening. She lowered her hand, and with wide eyes, looked at Konstantin. Kostya, she can't sell them, can she? Those are your family's shares. What right does she have? Konstantin ignored her. He had no time for her now. Svetlana, father gave you the shares to protect heritage. Konstantin took a step forward. His voice was almost pleading. By acting this way, aren't you betraying his memory? I laughed. When you allowed your mistress to hit me in the face, did you think of his memory? When you declared in front of 300 people that you were divorcing me, did you think of his memory? Konstantin opened his mouth, but found nothing to say. From the phone, Yuri Pavlovich's voice rang out again. Svetlana Andreevna, the buyer has confirmed the amount of 370 billion with a 10% premium, totaling 407 billion. He demands an immediate closing of the deal. Your decision. 407 billion. I heard someone gasp around me. Konstantin's eyes turned bloodshot. He hissed through clenched teeth. Svetlana, if you dare to sell them, I will never forgive you in my life. Your forgiveness? I looked at him. And how much is it worth? I said into the phone, Yuri Pavlovich, I agree. The notification sound from the banking app in the silent banquet hall was deafening. 407 billion transferred to the account. I looked at the long string of zeros on the screen and suddenly felt the irony of the situation. 5 years. 5 years I protected heritage, protected this home, protected this man. I thought that if I tried hard enough, endured enough, one day he would appreciate my efforts. And in the end, he brought his mistress to me, allowed her to hit me, and threatened divorce if I touched her. Konstantin looked as if all the air had been let out of him. He took 2 steps back and bumped into the table behind him. Glasses clattered to the floor, red wine splattered his trousers, but he didn't even notice. Impossible, he mumbled. How could you? This is family. Family? Family. I turned the phone screen towards him so he could see the credited amount. Konstantin, understand at last, my father personally re-registered these shares in my name. They bear the name Petrova, not Volkov. Alina also panicked now. She was foolish, but not that foolish. 407 billion. What does that mean? It's the lifeblood of heritage. Without these shares, Konstantin as president is an empty sound. Kostya. She clung to his sleeve. Her voice trembled. What should we do now? Konstantin sharply threw her hand away. The force was such that Alina fell to the floor. Get out, he roared. Alina, having fallen, looked at him in disbelief. Kostya, you pushed me. I'm carrying your child. Child? Konstantin looked down at her. His eyes were bloodshot. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have stooped so low. I coldly observed this scene, feeling not the slightest sympathy. Alina got up from the floor. Her makeup was completely smeared. Blood had clotted on her lip. She looked like a pathetic wet hen. She turned to me. In her gaze was hatred, but even more fear. Svetlana, you did this on purpose, didn't you? She shrieked piercingly. You've wanted to sell the shares for a long time. You just found an excuse. An excuse? I looked at her. When you were hitting me in the face, you didn't consider that an excuse. I put away my phone and took a wet wipe from my purse, slowly wiping the slap mark from my face. Alina, thank you. I finished wiping my face and threw the wipe into the bin. Thank you for opening my eyes with that slap. Suddenly, Constantine fell to his knees with a thud. The entire hall gasped. The president of Heritage Holding, a business genius, an heir of a wealthy family, knelt before me in front of 300 people. Svetlana, I beg you. His voice was hoarse beyond recognition. The shares are already sold. I don't blame you. But tell me, who is the buyer? At least let me know whose hands Heritage has fallen into. I looked down at him. This man, 5 years ago, when we married, swore he would take care of me all his life. In the second year of marriage, he got a mistress. In the third, a third. In the fifth, he brought a mistress to an official event and humiliated me in front of everyone. And now he's on his knees, begging me to tell him who I sold Heritage to. You'll find out. Very soon. I picked up my purse and headed for the exit of the banquet hall. Behind me, Alina's sobs and Constantine's furious shouts could be heard, but I didn't look back. The heels of my shoes confidently clicked on the marble floor. At the exit, the doorman opened the door for me. His gaze held an inexpressible reverence. Mrs. Volkova, he said softly. Call me Mrs. Petrova, I corrected him. As of today, there is no more Mrs. Volkova. I left the hotel. The night wind was cool. Standing on the steps, I took a deep breath. 5 years. For 5 years, I spent in this golden cage, playing the role of an obedient canary. I learned to please, to endure, to save face in front of everyone. And what was the result? A public slap. I took out my phone and dialed a number. They answered after the first ring. Sister, a young male voice said. Everything is ready. Excellent. 407 billion in the account. Wonderful. I've waited a long time for this day. Me too. Hanging up, I turned and looked at the hotel building. The Heritage Holding logo still glowed golden, very impressive, but it no longer concerned me. I opened the taxi app. 3 minutes later, a very ordinary car stopped in front of me. The driver leaned out the window. Girl, did you order this? Yes. I opened the door and got in. The driver looked at me in the rearview mirror, probably surprised that a woman in a couture evening gown was taking a taxi in the middle of the night. Where to? Hotel National. I booked a room that morning. From the moment I received a provocative message from Alina, I knew that tonight would be my last as Mrs. Volkova. The message read, Tonight at dinner, Kostya will put an end to your relationship in front of everyone. Be a good girl and leave on your own. Reading this, I wasn't angry or upset. I just opened my contacts, found Yuri Pavlovich's number, and sent him a message. Be ready. Tonight I'm selling the shares. The taxi stopped at the Hotel National. When I got out, the doorman recognized me. Mrs. Volkova, he looked at me in surprise. Mrs. Petrova, I corrected him again. The doorman froze for a moment, then hastily opened the door for me. I entered the lobby, and a reception staff member immediately approached me. Mrs. Petrova, your room is ready. Presidential suite as you requested, for 7 days. Thank you. I took the key card and entered the elevator. When the doors closed, I leaned against the wall and finally closed my eyes. Tears silently streamed down my cheeks. Not from pain, but from no longer having to pretend. I slept for 12 hours in the presidential suite of the Hotel National. When I woke up, my phone had over 200 missed calls. All from Constantine and over 70 messages. I didn't read them, just swiped away the notification. The last message was from Alina, sent at 3 a.m. Svetlana, do you think you won? Kostya will soon be back on his feet, and then you'll be on your knees, begging us for forgiveness. I smirked and blocked her number. After showering and changing into clean clothes, I sat down for breakfast by the panoramic window. The city landscape shone in the sun's rays. In the distance, the Heritage Holding building was visible. Its glass facade reflected the dazzling light. I bit into a croissant. The phone rang. This time, an unknown number. Hello, Svetlana Andreevna. A low male voice answered on the other end. The signing of documents for the transfer of shares is today at 3 p.m. Your personal presence is required. All right, send the address. And also, he paused, the buyer would like to meet with you. Who is the buyer? You'll find out when you arrive. Hanging up, I continued to have breakfast. Honestly, I myself was curious about who the buyer was. The fact that Yuri Pavlovich had negotiated a deal with a 10% premium yesterday meant that the buyer was not short of funds and was firmly intent on acquiring Heritage. In the market, someone willing to overpay for a competitor's shares is either crazy or an enemy of the Volkov family. At 3:30, I left, dressed in an elegant pantsuit and with light makeup. In the taxi, the driver looked at me several times in the mirror. "Girl, are you going to Moscow City for work?" Something like that. "Only big companies there," the driver sighed. "Who works there?" "All the elite." I remained silent. The car stopped at the entrance of one of the towers. The security guard at the entrance stopped me. "Hello. Please show your pass." I gave Yuri Pavlovich's name. The guard checked the information and respectfully escorted me inside. Yuri Pavlovich was waiting for me in the meeting room on the third floor. He was over 50, with gray hair and gold-rimmed glasses. He was Konstantin's father's personal lawyer and one of the family's most trusted people. Svetlana Andreevna. He stood up. His gaze was full of complex emotions. "You have truly thought through everything about the shares." "Yuri Pavlovich." I sat opposite him. "Didn't you hear the sound of the bank notification yesterday?" He sighed, heard. "I just feel sorry for the late Mr. Volkov." "I feel sorry for him too. But his son does not deserve for me to keep this oath." Yuri Pavlovich was silent for a moment, then took a stack of documents from his briefcase. "This is the agreement for the transfer of shares. Please review it. If everything is in order, the signing is at 3 o'clock. I flipped through a few pages, and upon seeing the buyer's name, froze. Yuri Pavlovich. "The buyer is—" "Yes," the lawyer nodded. "That's him." I stared at that name for a full 10 seconds, then laughed. No wonder. No wonder. Yuri Pavlovich found a buyer so quickly. No wonder he was willing to overpay by 10%, and no wonder he wanted to meet me. "Svetlana Andreevna." Yuri Pavlovich hesitated. "I don't know if I should say it, but go ahead. The late Mr. Volkov," he adjusted his glasses, "had one story connected to the buyer. I cannot reveal the details, but before his death, he asked me to deliver a letter. This letter was addressed to this very person." "What letter?" I asked in surprise. "I don't know the content," Yuri Pavlovich said, "but Mr. Volkov asked me not to give it away unless absolutely necessary. When you said yesterday that you were selling the shares, I realized that this was the extreme necessity." I looked at the clock on the wall. 2:45. What time will he be here? Exactly at 3. As soon as the clock struck 3, the meeting room door opened, and a man entered. He was in his early 30s. He was half a head taller than Konstantin, dressed in a custom-made dark blue suit, broad shoulders, narrow waist. His entire appearance exuded a cold aristocratic air. He had deep-set eyes, and in his gaze was something that Konstantin lacked. Confidence, not feigned, but that which comes after real-life storms. Seeing me, he paused for a moment. "Svetlana Petrova," I stood up. "Mr. Dmitry Romanov." Dmitry Romanov, head of Romanov Group Corporation, creator of the youngest business empire in Asia, featured on the cover of Forbes for 3 consecutive years, and Konstantin Volkov's main competitor in the market. Dmitry approached and sat opposite. His gaze lingered on my face for a few seconds. "You are more beautiful than in the photos, and you are younger than in the magazines." He smirked. The corners of his lips slightly upturned, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Petrova, 407 billion for your 51% of Heritage shares. You lost on this deal, I know, and yet you sold, because I don't want to have anything to do with the Volkov family anymore. As long as the shares are in my hands, I am forever linked to Konstantin. I don't want that." Dmitry paused. "Have you divorced Konstantin?" "Not yet, but yesterday he declared in front of 300 people that he would divorce me." Dmitry raised an eyebrow. "He has problems in his head." I couldn't help but laugh. "Mr. Romanov, you bought Heritage shares not to make money, right?" "Of course not." Dmitry leaned back in his chair. "I want to destroy Konstantin Volkov. Not for money, but for one person." "Which one?" "Your father-in-law, Mr. Volkov Sr." A few seconds of silence hung in the room. 10 years ago, Mr. Volkov did me a favor," Dmitry said. This favor saved my entire family's life. Before his death, he wrote me a letter. It said that if his son turned out to be a scoundrel, he asked me to set his house in order. I froze. Yuri Pavlovich confirmed Dmitri's words with a nod. So, you see, Dmitri continued, even if you hadn't sold the shares, I would have had other ways, but you sold them, and that simplified everything. He took the share transfer agreement from the table, turned to the last page, and affixed his signature. Now I am the largest shareholder of Heritage. Konstantin Volkov will not sit in the president's chair for long. I watched him sign the documents and felt a strange relief. Not gloating, not satisfaction, but precisely relief. Miss Petrova, Dmitri, after signing, looked up at me. Are you interested in working at Romanov Group? What, I was surprised. I have studied your resume. All major heritage projects over the past few years were overseen by you. Konstantin was just the face of the company. You did the real work. I did not expect him to know this. For 5 years at Heritage, you received a salary less than Konstantin spent on pocket money, Dmitri said. But your abilities are worth 100 of his. He stood up and extended his hand to me. Romanov Group, I offer you the position of vice president, an 8-figure annual salary, and 5% of the shares. I looked at his hand, not rushing to answer. Why? Because I need real talent. And he paused. I believe that a woman like you should not be destroyed by some scoundrel. These words were spoken simply, but meaningfully. I extended my hand and shook his. Agreed. Dmitri's hand was warm, his handshake firm. When he released my hand, the corners of his lips curled a little more. Welcome to Romanov Group. I left the Moscow City Tower when it was already dark. I was standing by the road waiting for a taxi when my phone rang again. This time it was Konstantin's mother, my mother-in-law Anna Borisovna. After hesitating, I answered. Svetlana. Her voice was so piercing that it seemed it could pierce my eardrums. Have you gone mad? You sold Heritage shares? That's what old Volkov left you. How could you do such a thing, Anna Borisovna? When your son brought his mistress and allowed her to hit me in the face, why were you silent? There was silence on the other end of the line. These are your family matters. Anna Borisovna's tone softened. Husband and wife quarreling is just teasing. Kostya is young, foolish. As a wife, you should have yielded to him. Yield to him? Those words again. Anna Borisovna. The shares are sold, the money is in the account. Talking about it is pointless now. Your voice, Anna Borisovna, became piercing again. Give the money back. This is the Volkov family's money. This is my money. The shares were re-registered in my name. Everything is legally clean. If you disagree, you can contact lawyers. Svetlana, don't think that just because you now have hundreds of billions, you've become someone special, she screamed into the receiver. You're a divorced woman with a lot of money. Do you think you can live peacefully? Everyone will point fingers at you behind your back. Let them point. In any case, not just at me. I hung up. I knew Anna Borisovna too well. For her, only the reputation of the Volkov family and her son's career mattered. I, her daughter-in-law, was merely a tool for her. Now the tool had gone out of control, and she panicked. But it no longer concerned me. I called a taxi and went to one place, the Volkov's suburban estate. There, in the living room, hung a portrait of Konstantin's father. I wanted to say goodbye to him. The manager, Stepan Ivanovich, froze when he saw me. Young madam, Stepan Ivanovich. I came to visit father. He looked at me. His eyes were slightly red. Young madam, I heard about what happened last night. You've had a difficult time. It's all in the past. I entered the living room and lit 3 incense sticks before Konstantin's father's portrait. From the photograph, a kind old man with a smile on his lips looked at me. Exactly as he was on the day we first met. I knelt down. I sold the shares. Forgive me. I couldn't save Heritage. I bowed 3 times. But your son doesn't deserve it. If you were alive, you would also pity me, wouldn't you? The person in the portrait couldn't answer. But in my heart, I knew he wouldn't blame me. That old man, dying, held my hand. And in his eyes there was so much guilt. He knew what kind of person his son was. He knew that I would have a hard time in the Volkov family. He couldn't change anything, so he gave me the shares. It was his way of leaving me a path to retreat. Father, thank you. I will live well. From the estate, I drove straight to Konstantin's office. Not the Heritage headquarters, but his small, private office. He had several mistresses, and for each, he set up his own little nest. This office in a building in the east of the city was where he met Alina. When I entered, Konstantin was sitting on the sofa, smoking. Alina was not there. Seeing me, he immediately put out his cigarette and stood up. Svetlana. His voice was terribly hoarse. Deep dark circles lay under his eyes. His suit was wrinkled. His tie was askew. In one night, he had aged 10 years. Why did you come? I took a folder from my purse and threw it on the table. Divorce agreement. Sign it. Konstantin lowered his gaze, and his face became even gloomier. Division of property. You leave with nothing. He raised his head. Are you suggesting I leave with nothing? Yes. Your apartments, cars, your mother's assets. I don't need any of it. But you won't get a penny from me either. Svetlana. He slammed his fist on the table. Leave with nothing. These apartments, cars. Isn't that Volkov family property? With 4 billion, you're suggesting I leave with nothing. 400 billion is my money. They have nothing to do with you. Konstantin gritted his teeth. His chest heaved heavily. Do you know what people will say behind your back? That Konstantin Volkov was kicked out of his home by his wife? With nothing. How will I look people in the eye after that? And what do I care how you'll look people in the eye? I looked at him. When you allowed your mistress to hit me in the face, did you think about how I would look people in the eye? Konstantin opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a word. Sign it. Don't waste time. He didn't move. I took out my phone and turned on the voice recorder. If you don't sign, I'll post a video on the internet of you begging me on your knees at the banquet yesterday. 300 people filmed it. Do you think you can hide everything? Konstantin's face turned white as a sheet. What are you, Konstantin? I give you 5 minutes. If you don't sign in 5 minutes, the video will be online, and then everyone will know how the president of Heritage Holding begged his wife on his knees not to sell the shares. He looked at me with fierce hatred, but took the pen. He signed, grinding his teeth. Every movement betrayed his rage. When he finished, he threw the pen on the floor and growled, Svetlana, you'll regret this. I won't regret it. I put the agreement in my purse. Most of all, I regret marrying you. I turned and walked towards the exit. At the door, I stopped. By the way, I didn't turn back. Tell your Alina to take care of her pregnancy. After all, it's your last child. Konstantin screamed from behind and swept everything off the table onto the floor. I didn't turn around and entered the elevator. As the doors closed, I saw him run into the corridor, his face contorted with rage, pounding on the elevator doors, but his screams remained outside. I leaned against the elevator wall and exhaled deeply. It was all over. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of patience, 5 years of humiliation. It was all over. For the first month after the divorce, I did nothing. I just lay in my luxurious national hotel suite, ate, slept, watched TV shows, scrolled through my phone, occasionally went down to the spa. Yuri Pavlovich sent daily reports on the completion of the share deal. Dmitry Romanov had already replaced the president at Heritage. Konstantin was expelled from the board of directors. Even his office was taken away. They say that Alina, finding out Konstantin was ruined, fled that same day. Whether she had an abortion is unknown, but the person disappeared. Konstantin's mother, Anna Borisovna, called me more than 40 times. I didn't answer a single one. On the 41st time, she sent a voice message, crying, Svetlana, Mama was wrong. Come back. Kostya understood everything. I blocked her number too. In the second month, Dmitry Romanov called me. Svetlana, have you rested? His low and pleasant voice came over the phone. Time to get to work. Dmitry, I haven't decided yet if I want to work at Romanov Group. You promised. I changed my mind. There was a 3-second silence on the other end. Then this, Dmitry said. Come to one event. Consider it a test before employment. If you decide that Romanov Group is not for you, I won't insist. What kind of event? Next Saturday, a new project presentation in the east of the city. I need a companion. Don't you have an assistant? I do, but I need a companion who can make an impression. You fit the bill. After thinking it over, I agreed. There was nothing else to do anyway. On Saturday evening, I arrived at the venue on time, wearing a black evening dress. Dmitri was waiting for me at the entrance. He was in a white suit, which made him even taller and more attractive, as if he had stepped off a magazine cover. Seeing me, his eyes sparkled. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." He offered me his arm, and we entered the hall together. There were already many people there, all the business elite. Seeing me with Dmitry Romanov, everyone's faces changed. "That's Svetlana Petrova, Konstantin Volkov's ex-wife. What's she doing with Dmitry Romanov? I heard she sold him heritage shares for over 400 billion. My God. So she's with Romanov now." "No, not with him. They are business partners, actually." I listened to these whispers without changing my expression. Dmitri leaned in and whispered in my ear. "Used to it. I've heard worse in the last 5 years." He smirked and said nothing more. We sat at the main table next to several top managers of Romanov Group. Seeing me, they politely greeted me. "Miss Petrova, good evening. You look wonderful today." I responded to them, maintaining a dignified and reserved demeanor. In the middle of the presentation, a commotion suddenly erupted at the entrance. I turned around and almost laughed. Konstantin had arrived. He was in a clearly ill-fitting suit, his hair disheveled, and he had thinned to an unrecognizable state. He stood at the entrance, staring intently at me, or rather, at my hand resting on Dmitri's arm. "Svetlana." He took long strides towards us. His voice was hoarse like sandpaper. "Are you with Dmitry Romanov?" The entire hall fell silent. All eyes were on the three of us. Dmitri stood up, shielding me. "Mr. Volkov, this is a Romanov Group presentation. You don't seem to have received an invitation." Konstantin, without looking at him, stared at me. "Svetlana, it's only been 2 months since our divorce, and you're already with Romanov. Have you been together for a long time?" I stood up and walked over to Dmitri. "Konstantin, when you brought your mistress and allowed her to hit me in the face, didn't you think I might be with someone else?" Konstantin's face turned crimson. "You did this on purpose, sold him the shares, got together with him, all to get revenge on me." "Revenge on you?" I smirked. "Are you worth it?" Konstantin trembled with rage and reached out to grab me. Dmitri intercepted his hand, squeezing his wrist with one hand. "Mr. Volkov." Dmitri's voice was icy. "If you touch her again, I'll make sure you can't even afford that suit." Konstantin tried to break free, but couldn't. His wrist whitened in Dmitri's grip, and his expression shifted from anger to humiliation. "Let go," he hissed through clenched teeth. Dmitri released him, continuing to stand before me like a wall. Konstantin took a step back, looked at Dmitri, then at me. There was something indescribably complex in his gaze. "Svetlana, you'll regret this." "You've already said that, but I feel perfectly fine now." Konstantin's lips trembled. He turned and left. He walked with a slight limp, as if he had a leg injury. Later, I learned that after leaving Heritage, he got into huge debts, and creditors beat him several times. After he left, everything returned to normal, but the looks I received changed. It wasn't sympathy, not pity, but awe. A woman betrayed by her husband not only didn't break, but sold his company to his sworn enemy, left with billions, and now stands shoulder to shoulder with the head of a business empire. Who would dare to cross such a woman? After the presentation, Dmitri drove me to the hotel. In the car, he suddenly said, "You held up wonderfully." "What do you mean?" "In front of Konstantin. You didn't tremble. You weren't afraid. You didn't back down. Why should I be afraid? I lost everything. I have nothing left to fear." Dmitri looked at me but said nothing. The car stopped at the hotel. As I was about to get out, he suddenly called my name. "Svetlana, yes? On Monday, I'll be waiting for you at Romanov Group. The vice president position is yours." I looked at him and smiled. All right. On my very first day at Romanov Group, I realized one thing. Dmitry Romanov is a workaholic to the core. He's at the office at 6 a.m., leaves at midnight. At meetings, he's decisive and ruthless, not shying away from strong expressions. The entire company fears him. Even veteran managers lower their heads when they see him. But with me, he was surprisingly patient. "Svetlana, this plan needs refinement. The logic is unclear." "Svetlana, There's a data error in this report. Redo it. Svetlana, you're leading the meeting after lunch. I'll be listening. When he said refine or redo, his tone was calm. No yelling, no irritation. As if he were teaching a student. If it didn't work once, try a second time. If it didn't work a second time, a third. I learned quickly. In 3 months, I independently completed a project worth 300 million. In 6 months, I secured a contract with Romanov Group's largest client. In 9 months, Dmitry proposed my candidacy for the position of executive vice president at the board of directors. The decision was unanimous. That evening, he invited me to dinner at a quiet Japanese restaurant. In a private room, it was just the two of us. Congratulations, Madam Vice President. He raised his glass. Thank you, Mr. Romanov. I clinked glasses with him. He took a sip of sake, set down the cup, and then suddenly said, Svetlana, have you thought about what comes next? What do you mean? You're not going to just work your whole life. You need a home, a family. Dmitry, are you proposing to me? I froze. No. He looked at me very seriously. I'm asking myself, can I give you this home? Silence hung in the air. My chopsticks froze in midair. I didn't know what to say. I know it might be too early to talk about this, but I don't like to beat around the bush. I like you. From our first meeting in that conference room. Dmitry, I just got divorced. I know. A man betrayed me. I know. I might not be able to trust anyone for a long time. I know. But I have plenty of time. He spoke with the same confident and unequivocal tone as he did about business. I looked at him and suddenly smiled. You are completely inept at courting women. I know, that's why I need you to teach me. That evening, I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. I said, give me time. He replied, okay. And he waited 3 months. Never rushed me once. At work, everything was as usual. Outside of work, he kept his distance. He, as promised, was ready to wait until one event disturbed this balance. That day, I was working in my office. A girl from reception called. Miss Petrova, there's someone waiting for you downstairs. Says he's your ex-husband. I put down my documents, walked to the window, and looked down. Konstantin stood at the entrance to the Romanov Group tower. He wore a crumpled jacket, his hair was like a bird's nest, and he was emaciated beyond recognition. In his hands, he held a poster with the inscription, Svetlana, I was wrong. Forgive me. A crowd had already gathered below. Someone was taking pictures. Someone was pointing fingers. I frowned and called security. Remove him. Security went down, but Konstantin wouldn't leave. He fell to his knees in front of the entrance and shouted upwards. Svetlana, I was wrong. I shouldn't have allowed Alina to hit you. Shouldn't have said those words. Please forgive me. The guards tried to lift him, but he clung to the ground, refusing to leave. The crowd of onlookers grew. Even people from across the street stopped to watch. I stood by the window and watched this, feeling nothing. A year ago, seeing Konstantin on his knees, I might have softened, but not now, because he wasn't begging me. He was begging for lost wealth and status. The phone rang. An unknown number, I answered. On the other end was Konstantin's voice, breaking into sobs. Svetlana, I beg you, lend me some money. My mother is in the hospital. She needs an operation. I have no money. None at all. Your mother is in the hospital? Yes, her heart. She needs an operation. 300,000. I don't have that kind of money. He cried like a child. Svetlana, for the sake of everything that was between us, help me. I paused. Konstantin, when you brought Alina and allowed her to hit me in the face, did you think about what was between us? Silence fell on the other end of the line. When you left me with nothing, did you think about what was between us? Svetlana, I was wrong. I really understood everything. Do you know what your mistake is? Not that you brought a mistress, but that you still think I'll forgive you. I hung up and blocked that number. Downstairs, security finally dragged Konstantin away. They dragged him, and he screamed, Svetlana, you can't do this to me. I'm your husband. His cries echoed. Your husband. The guards threw him onto the pavement. He lay on the ground for a long time, unable to get up. I returned to my desk and continued working. 5 minutes later, my office door opened. Dmitri stood in the doorway with a cup of coffee in his hands. I heard what happened downstairs. He placed the coffee on my table. Are you okay? I'm fine. Not the first time. He sat opposite me and watched me drink coffee. Svetlana, right? You stood by the window for 10 minutes. You didn't cry. Why should I cry? Many women in such a situation would have cried. But not you. You are much stronger than him. Good. I looked at him and suddenly asked, Dmitri, you were downstairs, weren't you? Yes. If you needed my help, I would have intervened, but you didn't need it, because I can handle it myself. I know. He stood up, went to the door, and, turning around, said, That's why I like you. The door closed. I held the coffee cup and looked out the window. Downstairs, everything had calmed down. Constantine had disappeared. The evening city was beautiful. The sunset painted the sky in orange hues. The glass of distant skyscrapers reflected the golden light. I finished my coffee and returned to work. The story of Constantine kneeling went viral online. Someone filmed a video and posted it on the internet with the headline, Former oligarch on his knees, begging ex-wife for forgiveness. In 3 days, the video gained over 20 million views. In the comments, most people cursed Constantine. He deserved it. What was he thinking when he brought his mistress? Such men should be punished. While his wife had money, he didn't appreciate her. But when he became poor, he crawled on his knees. Svetlana is a good woman. Women, take an example. Of course, the deer also got it. Where is that mistress? She's gone, that wicked witch. She's not visible. I heard she got pregnant and ran away. Was the child even Volkov's? Such women are only after money. The man went bankrupt, she immediately vanished. There were also those who cursed me. Be that as it may, they were husband and wife. Not giving 300,000 for an operation, that's too cruel. Yes, his mother is in the hospital. Couldn't she have shown some compassion? But these comments quickly drowned in the general flow. When she was being beaten, did anyone show compassion? He deserves it. Don't give him a single penny. Author, you're probably an adulterer yourself, to empathize with him so much. I didn't read the comments. My assistant told me about them. Miss Petrova. Everyone online is discussing your story, she said cautiously. Perhaps we should involve the PR department? No need, let them discuss it. I didn't do anything wrong, did I? A month later, Dmitri told me the news. He paid for Konstantine's mother's operation. What? I looked up at him. 300,000. I sent them in your name. I froze. Svetlana, you don't owe them anything. But I know that if you hadn't helped, you would have blamed yourself later. So I did it for you. I looked at him, and my nose suddenly tingled. Dmitri, yes, you are a terrible person. Why? Because you give me no reason to hate you. He smiled. Very beautiful. Then don't hate. Try to love. 3 months later, Romanov Group held its annual gala. It was the main social event of the year, attended by all of high society. When Dmitri led me down the red carpet, the flashes of camera lights almost blinded me. I wore a shimmering white mermaid dress, custom-made by Dmitri. My hair was swept up in an elegant updo, and a sapphire necklace worth 30 million sparkled around my neck, a gift from Dmitri. Nervous? He asked softly. No, that's good. He squeezed my hand, because today I have something planned. He didn't answer, just smiled mysteriously. After the evening began, Dmitri went on stage to give a speech. He talked a lot about Romanov Group's successes over the year, plans for the future, and the team, and then suddenly changed his tone. And today I want to announce something else personal. His gaze was fixed on me. The entire hall fell silent. I, Dmitri Romanov, have never in my life asked anyone for anything. But today, I want to ask one person. He stepped off the stage, walked over to me, and in front of 1,000 guests, knelt down on one knee. He took a box with a ring from his pocket. Inside, dazzling brightly in the spotlight, lay a 10-carat diamond. Svetlana, marry me. The hall erupted in applause. Someone cheered. Someone clapped. Someone jumped out of their seat in delight. I looked down at him, and tears welled up in my eyes. Dmitri, you know how to pick a moment. I know, so, What's your answer? I extended my hand to him. Yes. As he placed the ring on my finger, the hall roared with delight. Camera flashes never stopped. Everyone saw that moment, including Constantin, who had secretly snuck into the evening and was sitting in a corner. He was in an old suit, hiding behind other people, and watching the stage. His eyes were red, his lips trembled. It seemed as if the last drop of strength had left him. He didn't know that Alina was sitting next to him. She had also lost a lot of weight. There was almost no makeup on her face, she was dressed very simply. Next to her sat a man who was hugging her waist, either a new admirer or someone else. They sat and watched me on stage, and their expressions were gloomier than each other. After the evening, journalists photographed Constantin, who was sitting alone on the steps at the entrance, crying, with his head in his hands. Alina had already been dragged away by her new companion. It seemed they were arguing very loudly. The next day, these photos were in all the news with the headline, "Former husband and mistress watched as the former wife was proposed to." One cried, the other scandalized. The scene was extremely awkward. The comments were full of laughter. The best romance of the year without a doubt. Svetlana is simply the queen of revenge. Dmitry Romanov, what a man. Handsome, rich, and so in love with his woman. Where can you find such men? Constantine deserved it. As arrogant as he was, so pathetic he is now. I read these comments in Dmitry's car and laughed. What are you reading, jokes? He leaned over, looked, and smiled too. Happily. Happily. He hugged me by the shoulders and kissed my forehead. You'll be even happier later. I snuggled into his shoulder and looked at the night city. The lights twinkled like stars. A year ago, I stood in the banquet hall, humiliated by a mistress and betrayed by my husband. A year later, I'm sitting in the car of Asia's youngest business magnate, with a 10-carat engagement ring on my finger and 400 billion in my account. The world is truly just. You are cruel to me. I will be even crueler to you. You trampled me in the dirt. I will grow out of this dirt and bloom into a beautiful flower. After the engagement, Dmitry's first act was to take me to the Volkov estate. Why? I asked, sitting in the car, a little confused. To honor your father-in-law's memory. What's your connection to him? I froze. He saved my life, Dmitry said after a pause. 10 years ago, my father was framed. Our company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Your father-in-law secretly intervened, invested 3 billion, and helped us survive. 3 billion? I was in shock. He never told me. He never told anyone, Dmitry said. He was one of those who do good and expect no gratitude. Later I found him, wanted to return the money. He told me one phrase. Which one? No need. If one day my son turns out to be a scoundrel, just set things right for me instead. I opened my mouth, not knowing what to say. So, you see, Dmitry continued, I bought heritage shares not only for you, but also for your father-in-law. The car stopped at the gates of the estate. Stepan Ivanovich, seeing us, was both surprised and happy. Young madam, you've returned. Stepan Ivanovich, I've come to honor father's memory. He glanced at Dmitry and seemed to recognize him. This is my fiancé. Stepan Ivanovich's eyes widened, but he quickly composed himself. Without asking anything, he respectfully led us inside. I knelt before Constantine's father's portrait and lit 3 incense sticks. Father, I have come to you. The old man in the photograph still smiled. I sold the shares to Dmitry Romanov. Don't blame me. Dmitry also knelt and lit an incense stick. Mr. Volkov, I have carried out your instructions. I will manage Heritage's shares with dignity. As for your son, he paused. I will leave him the opportunity to live. That's what Svetlana wants. I looked at him, and my heart grew warm. From the estate, Dmitry drove me to a suburban village. What is this? I bought land here. I plan to build an estate. This will be our home. He stopped the car at an already built mansion and led me inside. The house was huge, beautifully finished, but most of all I was struck by the lilac bush in the yard. How do you know I love lilacs? Your assistant told me. She says you had lilacs growing at the Volkov's house too, and every spring they smelled so wonderfully. I stood under the lilacs and looked at the green leaves. I planted that bush right after the wedding. Every spring, I picked a few sprigs and put them in my room. Constantine didn't care. He didn't even distinguish the smell of lilacs. But I do. Dmitri stood behind me. His voice was quiet. Now every spring I will watch the lilacs with you. I turned around. The setting sun lit his face, softening his features. Dmitri. Yes. You are not at all what they say about you. And what do they say? Everything, that you are a heartless business machine, but you are actually very gentle. He smiled and ruffled my hair. I'm only gentle with you. That evening we stood under the lilacs and watched the stars all night. The next morning, the phone rang. An unknown number, I answered. On the other end was a young female voice, breaking into tears. Svetlana, it's me, Alina. What do you want? I froze. I want to apologize. She sobbed. I was wrong. I shouldn't have hit you. I shouldn't have taken Konstantin away. I understand everything. Are you calling just for that? No, she sniffled. I wanted to ask where Konstantin is now. He owes me a lot of money. I can't find him. I almost laughed. Alina, your affairs with Konstantin don't concern me. Don't call me again. I hung up. 10 minutes later, she called again. I didn't answer. She called 5 more times. I didn't answer any. Finally, she sent a message. Svetlana, if you don't tell me where Konstantin is, I'll find you myself. I know where you live. I forwarded this message to Dmitri. 3 minutes later, a reply came. Question solved. She won't bother you anymore. I don't know how he resolved it, but Alina really didn't appear again. Later, I heard that she got into debt. Creditors pursued her, and eventually her family had to pay for her. Her new admirer also ran away, turning out to be a scammer who conned her out of several $100,000. As for Konstantin, less and less was known about him. Some said he went to work in another city, some that he returned to his native village, and some that he was carrying bricks on a construction site. Wherever he was, it no longer concerned me. 3 months after the engagement, Dmitri did something no one expected. He transferred 30% of Heritage shares back into my name. Are you crazy? I looked at the contract, disbelieving my eyes. That's over 100 billion. Are you just giving them to me like that? I'm not giving them away. I'm returning them. Returning them. Your father-in-law helped me. That's my debt to him. Besides, these shares are rightfully yours. I was just their custodian for a few months. I looked at him and thought, what an interesting man he is. He gave away hundreds of billions without batting an eye. Dmitri, do you know what people will say now? What? That I have you under my thumb? He laughed. Let them say it. You don't care. Why should I care? He looked at me. You are my fiancé. All mine is yours. Giving you the shares is natural. I held the agreement in my hands, not knowing what to say. Sign it. He held out a pen to me. And then I'll take you somewhere. I signed. He took me to the Zags. Why? To register our marriage. Today. Today. I've waited too long. I looked at the Zags doors and suddenly felt nervous. Dmitri, are you sure? I'm a divorced woman. I know I might not be the best wife, but I'll be the best husband. I looked at him, and my eyes became moist. You're so good at giving compliments. I only give them to you. He took my hand, and we went inside. The procedure was simple. Application. Photo. When they photographed us, the photographer asked us to smile. Dmitri didn't smile. He looked at me with such tenderness that I could drown in it. And at the moment the photographer pressed the button, I smiled. Very happily. Leaving the Zags, Dmitri put away the marriage certificate and then took out another piece of paper from his pocket. What is this? Your new business card. I took it. It read, Romanov Group. Svetlana Petrova, President. President. I looked up. Yes, I will be chairman of the board. And you will be president. Together we will make Romanov Group even bigger. I looked at him and thought that in my past life, I must have saved the galaxy. Dmitri, yes, I love you. It was the first time I had said those 3 words to him. He froze, then smiled like a child. And I love you too. From our first meeting, that evening we sat under the lilacs in our new home and drank red wine. The moon was full, the lilacs were fragrant, the wind was gentle. I snuggled into his shoulder, and listened to his stories about his childhood, about how he started his business, how he went step by step to success. In the middle of the story, he suddenly stopped. Svetlana, are you sure? About what? That you married me? I looked up and met his eyes. No, I'll never regret it. He leaned in and kissed me. Lilac petals fell from the branches, covering us like golden rain. In the first year of marriage, I immersed myself in work. Dmitri was the chairman. I was the president. We worked as a single mechanism. He was responsible for strategy, I for execution. The company's profit doubled. In business circles, they said that Dmitry Romanov, by marrying Svetlana, hit the jackpot. They also said that Svetlana, by marrying Dmitry, had a good catch. But I knew. No one was clinging to anyone. We were like two trees standing side by side. Our roots intertwined, and our branches stretched in the same direction. In the second year, I decided to establish a charitable foundation to help women who suffered from domestic violence and infidelity. I named it the Lilac Foundation. Why? Dmitri asked. Because you love lilacs. Also because lilacs are a symbol of new life. I want every woman who has suffered to be able to start a new life. On the opening day of the foundation, I spoke on stage. Over 1,000 people sat in the hall. Businessmen, journalists, ordinary people. I said, a year ago, at a banquet, my husband's mistress publicly slapped me. My husband stood by and watched her hit me, and then threatened divorce if I touched her. Silence fell in the hall. At that moment, it seemed my life was over, but I didn't break. I didn't cry, didn't throw tantrums, didn't beg him to come back. I did one thing. I sold his company and left with 400 billion. Someone in the hall laughed. I'm not saying this to boast about money. I want to say that a woman should never entrust her fate to another. You can love, but you should not be dependent. You can give yourself to your family, but you should not lose yourself. The hall erupted in applause. This fund was created to help those who went through the same thing as me. We will provide legal assistance, psychological support, help with professional training, so that they can get back on their feet. Because I believe every woman deserves gentle treatment. After the speech, people surrounded me, asking for autographs, taking photos. One woman approached me, her eyes red with tears. Svetlana, she said. Thank you. My husband has been cheating on me for 3 years. I was afraid to divorce because I have no money, no job. I didn't know how to live without him. But today, after listening to you, I decided to divorce. I took her hand. If you need help, come to us. The doors of our fund are always open for you, she cried, hugging me. In the evening, I returned home. Dmitri was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. He was in an apron, frying something in a pan. Hearing me enter, he said without turning around, Today's performance was brilliant. You watched? I watched the broadcast. My wife is the best. I walked up and hugged him from behind. Dmitri, yes? Thank you. For what? For showing me that there are good men in the world too. He turned off the stove, turned around, and wrapped me in his arms. Svetlana, you deserve all the best. That evening we had dinner under the lilacs. The moon was full, the lilacs fragrant. I ate what Dmitri had prepared, and suddenly remembered this very day a year ago. That evening, I left the banquet hall alone, in a taxi, and tears silently streamed down my cheeks. A year later, I am sitting in the courtyard of my own house, eating dinner prepared by the man I love, with billions in my account and managing a business empire. Suddenly, the phone rang. A message came from an unknown number. Svetlana, this is Konstantin. I know you don't want to see me, but I still want to say, forgive me. I wasn't worthy of you. Be happy. I looked at this message for a long time. Finally, I replied with one word, okay, and deleted it. Dmitri came over with a plate of fruit. Who's writing? Spam. He looked at me, but didn't ask any further questions. He put the fruit on the table and sat down beside me. Svetlana, right? Next month, let's go on a trip. Where to? Wherever you want. Then I want to go to Antarctica. I smiled. All right, we'll go to Antarctica. I'm serious. And I'm serious. He took out his phone and started looking for tickets. The 15th of next month works. I watched him seriously look for tickets, and suddenly my nose tingled. This man never spoke sweet words, but everything he promised, he delivered. He promised to clean up the mess, and he did. He promised to give me a home, and he did. He promised to watch the lilacs with me every spring, and he did. Now he said we would go to Antarctica. And I believed we would go. I leaned into his shoulder and watched the stars. Dimitri, yes. You know, sometimes I feel like it's all a dream. Not a dream, it's reality. And how will you prove it? He leaned down and kissed me on the forehead. Dreams aren't that sweet. I smiled, very happily. The stars twinkled in the sky. The lilacs bloomed in the night. This city is huge. It has many people and many stories. But my story here, from this moment, got its best ending. No, not an ending. A new beginning.